everyone, Karen here, and today I have a 5x7 landscape card for you using the Retro Christmas Ho 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 Santa. Now before we get to talking about everything I have in this tray, let's talk about the Santa heads. Now yes, it makes a Santa, that's what it was made to do, but you can also make a Mrs. Claus. And elves also can be made. You can make a little boy and a little girl, and you're not going to believe how I made her long hair. And I will show you that in a minute. That you can also make men with either a mustache, a beard, combination thereof. And if you didn't put the hats on here, you absolutely could use these year round. So keep these in mind as you're making cards and you need little people for your cards. So now let's go around the tray, what I have here. So I have 3 sheets from the 6x6 paper pad, and I'm using the B side, that are 2 by 3 3/4. And once again, I have 4 of those. I have 3 also from the 6x6 paper pad, and I'm going to be using the B side. And these are 4 by 2 1/4, and they're going to be made into these panels here. I then have 3 of the Ho Ho Ho's, because when you cut this die out, it makes 3 that are separate. And so I'm going to use 1 in each panel. I have my Santa hats. I'm going to need 2 red, 1 green. And I have 1 here that I still need to put together. And these are all going to be up on wobblers. I then have some heads, which you see here. This is the head. And I have some of those. Now in here, I have the eyebrows. Now, notice the difference between the eyebrows, which have this little piece kind of sticking out here, and the eyes. The eyes are smooth all around. Now you absolutely could use these as eyebrows if you wanted to, because they are a little bit smaller. You could use the round ones for eyes and then use those for eyebrows. You absolutely could to make it a little bit different look. I then have some beards, which is this piece here. I have these round pieces here, which is meant to be the little cheeks, but I'm going to use those as the nose. I just didn't care for the way this nose looked. I then have 2 mustaches, and I have a bunch of eyes cut out. And like I said, that's the eyes, so that's the mustache, that's the bottom of the hat, that's the top of the hat, and that's the pom-pom for the hat. Now I'm not going to use the circle part here because I am going to put these on the rectangular panels. I also have some gems here, which I'm not sure if I'm going to use or not. Now let's talk about the card base itself. So I have a 5x7 landscape. Now out of the 12x12 paper pad, I cut out part of the pink paper, and I'm going to use the B side again for this because I just wanted this red pattern. And this is 5x7. Now for the inside of the card, I have my messaging is on a 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, and it is going to sit on a 3 by 5. And I know normally I do them where they're the same all the way around, but today I'm doing something a little different where it's going to be wider on the sides than it is on the top and the bottom. Alright, so let's start by putting together some of our faces here. Alright, so let me first bring in 3 faces. Now we're going to need a hat for each one. So let's construct the other hat. So I have the red hat. I'm going to put a little bit of glue across the bottom here. And I'm going to attach the little trim. Now the trim can go either way. It can go up or down depending on what you want to do and how you want it to look like it's sitting on the head. Both will work just fine. There's no really wrong answer there. Put a little glue on top for the pom-pom. And let that grab. So now we have our pom-poms and our hats. So now let's talk about what we're going to do with the faces. First, let's do Santa, because he's the straightforward one that's on the box. Now you'll notice here, this one is flat. There's no embossing on here. Because if you look at the die itself, there are places where you can emboss with your mat. And the same goes with the trim, and even the mustache has some embossing on it. But if you don't want to use that, let me show you how you can emboss. So I'm just going to use an embossing tool I have from my scoreboard. Now I have this on a soft mat. Now your embossing mat that came with your Gemini and your other die cutting machines will work with this. Even the back of a mouse pad will work. So you want to go, let's you want to use the back side, and all you have to do is put little semicircles on here. And when you flip it over, you can see, let's see if I can turn this, it embosses it. Now you can do this with any die. It's very quick, it's very easy, and you can just emboss things just like that. You don't need to have an embossing built into the die to put embossing. You can always just add it yourself. Alright, so let's put his little mask, his little beard on. Alright. See if I can do this without getting glue all over the place. Okay, now we need his mustache. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the mustache. Instead of embossing it, I have two here. I am just going to take my embossing tool and put my own little embossing marks on there. Let's see if I, there you go. Now you can see it. And you can use the emboss or the deboss. I think for the mustache, I'm going to use the deboss side. And let me grab a nose. So I'm going to put the mustache on first. That will go right here in the center. And I will put his nose over the top. Let me grab my tweezers. Some of these pieces are small, so you're probably going to want a tweezers to help you out here. And we'll put his nose on. So now I want to put his hat on because I want to make sure that I have enough space for the eyes and I get the eyes on there in the correct location. So I'm going to put his little hat on here. So next I have some eyebrows. So there is a left and a right to the eyebrows because they are thicker on one side than the other. So they're going to go on like this. And I'm just going to lay these down here to make sure I have enough room for the eyes. One eye here. And one eye over here. And the eyes also have a left and a right. Now depending on how you angle these is how much he's going to look like he's either happy or mad. So make sure you get them in an angle that you're happy with. Okay. And then we'll glue those on. I'm just going to put a little dab of glue on here. Probably grab it with my tweezers. These are small. Let me turn this. And one eye right here. And we'll pick up the other eye. Like I said, these are tiny. That's why I cut out extras, because I figured I might lose some. You just want to make sure you put his eyes on the same. Then we'll pick up the eyebrow. And we'll put some glue on here. Not too much. There's one eyebrow, and here's two eyebrows. Okay, Mr. Santa is done. There you go, goes together that easy. Alright, let's put him to the side. Now let's talk about Mrs. Claus. So I've already embossed her hair. Now to get Mrs. Claus's hair to look correct, you're just going to need to snip this a little bit. So I'm going to cut this off and round it off. And I'm going to do the same to the other side. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to bring in the mustache. Now this is where it is really funny. So I'm just going to put some embossing marks on here. Give her some marks in her hair. If you take this mustache, cut it in half. Alright, we're going to take a face. I'm going to bring this down a little bit so it goes to the top of her ears. Like that. She doesn't look like she has too much of a puff head there. Now, if you take these mustache pieces and glue them behind her ears, she now looks like she has longer hair. So now Mrs. Claus has longer hair. So now she will need some eyes. Let me pick up the eyes. Let's get her face laid out so we know where we want to put everything. Alright, so this eye goes on this side. Picking up the same eye. This one will go on this side. She needs a nose. Okay, she will need a nose. Now she will need a mouth. Now you can use the the eyes for a mouth, and she looks just fine like that. There we go. So there's the Mrs. Claus. And then, of course, she will have her red hat. So let's get her face glued down. Let's give her some eyebrows. Put a little glue on the mouth. Give her her little smile. There you go. Now this is where you have to be careful, because if you place these in the wrong position, she's going to look like a very angry person. So we have to make sure she's a happy Mrs. Claus. Let me scoot this over here a little bit. You'll see what I mean. It's very easy to make these faces look angry if you angle the eyes too much. Because she doesn't look very happy here. So let's make sure we raise that eyebrow. There we go. Something more like that. Alright, so I'm going to do the eyebrows first. Make sure I have room. And I'm going to put one right here. Make sure they're angled up. And I'll do her eye. Make sure she looks happy. There we go. Now we'll do the other side. And we want to make sure this is the same. You also want to watch the placement with the nose. So you want to make sure the nose is equal distance. There we go. There we go. Your little reverse tweezers are your good friend when you're doing this. Now, so we have to decide, do we want her hat straight? Do we want her hat to the side? Because we have, where's the Santa we did. So I think we'll put her hat in the middle. Kind of like Santa's. Now I did use different paper for the white trim and the white hair. So it would look a little different when I glued them together. You can see I used plain matte paper for the hair, but I used Centura Pearl for the hat. And that does make it look different. Alright, so we have Santa and we have Mrs. Claus. So now we need an elf. So the elf, we have the same head. Now we have to decide, do we want a boy elf or a girl elf? So first we have to trim this off. And maybe since I showed you the hair already, maybe I'll make a boy elf. So the boy elf, you just bring the hair down. And see, I did the same thing with this one. We have a little embossing in there. I'm going to bring it down to his ears. I'm going to put his little hat in his head. I'll put his head on a little sideways since he's a little elf. And now he needs a nose. If we're going to make it a little boy, we won't need the other mustache. And he'll need some eyebrows. Alright, so I think his nose, oh, he needs a mouth. And that will be for his mouth. Alright, so I'm going to put his nose on first. Because his eyebrow will be here. His eye. Make sure I have the right ones here. Will be here. So his nose will need to be about here. And I can use this one for his mouth. That is way too much glue. Let me turn him upside down so I can give him a little smile here. Alright, now let's do his eyebrows. And remember, the thicker part of the eyebrow goes to the center. So this will go on this head, and I will put it right here. Alright, there's one. Now we have the other eyebrow. Turn him this way. And we'll put his eyes underneath. And you don't need a lot of glue. You want him to be happy. Happy little elf. I think I just put the glue on the wrong side. Alright, try this again. Put glue on this side. There's his other eye. Alright, so there's our 3 elves. Now, let's get everybody on the panels. So I have 2 panels done. And once again, these panels are 2 by 3 3/4, and the green is 4 by 2 1/4, and they're going to get glued on like this. But before I glue this together, I want to show you what I did here. So I took some of this bronze Midas ink, and I went all the way around the papers in both colors. I dabbed all the way around, just putting a little bit of a gold framing on the paper. All the way around, both of them. Just like that. So now I'm going to glue these together. And remember, these came from the 6x6 pad, not the large one, because I wanted the smaller print. This will go on here like this. Get it nice and centered. Let me take the 2 that are already dry. So Santa will be on one, Mrs. Claus on the other, and the little elf on the other one. So I'm going to put them up on wobblers. So I just have to, and if you haven't seen these, you can buy them on Amazon, and they're plastic pieces. One sticks to the card, one sticks to your embellishment, and it makes them all bouncy and lots of fun. And they're sticky, so you just peel the backing off. And one side goes to the embellishment. And the other side goes on the card. Now before we get carried away here, I need to make sure I put my ho 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 on here correctly. So if I want the ho 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 here, and I'm going to put Santa about here. So let me go ahead and glue the ho 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 on. Grab this on the side, kind of dab the glue around. Alright, and we'll put the hoe on here. Alright, so Santa's all done. Now Mrs. Claus will do the same thing. We will peel the pieces off of here. Peel it off the back. Stick one side to Mrs. Claus, and I don't think it really matters which side you put on where. I've done it both ways. Don't think it really matters. I'm going to take one of our hose, put it on the bottom here, and we'll put Mrs. Claus on here with her stylish hairdo. Now let's get some glue on the back of this. Dab this around. There we go. Now we'll put a hoe over here, like that. This one should be dry. Let's move on to our elf. Yeah, and these are quite fun, these wobblers, because you can really wobble anything. Okay, now put the hoe down so we know where that's going to go. And we'll put our elf here. Okay, now let's bring our front here. Move these over here. Let's get rid of all the papers. All right, bring in our card base. All right, put glue all over the back of this because this is 5 by 7 and this came from the 12 by 12 paper pad. This will go on the front. And this will fit the whole entire front of the card. And the reason why I did this is because once I made these panels, it kind of took up the whole front of the card. So I really needed this to be 5 by 7. I didn't want to go bigger because that, has its own sets of problems. And the thing about the wobblers is, when you put them in the envelope, they go completely flat. So where foam is always that height, these wobblers do mash down to go flat. So what I was thinking is I would put Santa and Mrs. Claus on the outsides because the elf is green, is going to be on the inside. And see, these are going to be a very tight fit. So here you have a couple of choices. You can put them on 3 panels going all the way across in a straight line, like that. You can bring the one down and bring these up. Or you can start with one up, one down, and this one in the middle. I think I kind of like it where I have 2 up and 1 down. So I think I'm going to glue them on this way. So let me start with Santa. And I am going to use the Colo glue because that does take a minute for it to set, because this is a tight squeeze. So I do need to make sure these are all going to fit. So I'm going to check to make sure the side and the top are the same for Santa here. And Mrs. Claus is going to be the same, but for her it's going to be the top and the right hand side. Needs to be the same. Make sure that's straight. And then there should be enough room for the elf in the middle. So with the elf, I'm going to bring him down to the edge. So the top edge I have here matches the bottom edge for the elf. And whoops, these slid a little bit. That's fine. Because that's why I was using the Colo glue. So in case I needed to kind of scoochy these a little bit, I could before it's set. Now I make sure I'm happy with my placement here. Alright, I think that looks nice and straight now. I think my little elf panel here slid a little bit. Alright. Alright, so there's the front with the wobblers. How fun is that? Alright, now for the inside of the card, I'm going to give this a second to grab hold though. I have these 3 pieces left here. So I have my wording, which once again is on a 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, which is going to sit on the 3 by 5. The 3 by 5 came from the large 12-inch paper pad, and this one is the 4th panel that is the same size as these yellow ones, which is 2 by 3/4, and this came out of the 6-inch paper pad. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit this either like this or like this. So the wording will get glued on here in the middle. So my sides are going to be bigger than the top and the bottom. And I did edge this paper just like I did all the panels here in the gold. Alright, we'll let that grab. So we'll do that again with this one. Just dab all the way around. Just like that. And it really does give it a nice edge. Alright, let's see if this is set enough to where I can move it. Alright, let me just give that a second. Alright, I think that's had enough time to set now. I can open it. Now this will go on the inside, and this will come under here. And I will glue it in like this. Now what I'm aiming for is to have this space here and this space here the same. So I will glue this one in first. Like that. So it's kind of the same, the top, the side, and the bottom. Then I can slide this one in to the correct spacing. So I want this here and this here to be about the same. So I'm going to press that down about here. Now on the front, I don't know if it really needs these gems. Maybe one here, and one here, where those centers are. Let me see. Yeah, maybe I will. Let me close up my Wobble glue. Bring in my tacky glue. I am just going to need a little dab. And these gems are just from an old subscription box. Oops, I just want that in the center. There we go. There is two. These are sticky on the back, but I like to use regular glue and make sure they're going to stay on there really good. And there's three. Here we go. And this card is finished. Our little wobblers using the little Santa head. So yeah, definitely keep these in mind when you're making other heads, because you can definitely use these as other people. If you like this card, give it a thumbs up. And please consider subscribing to my channel, because every week I will have more cards. And until next time, stay crafty.